You ever go on the YouTube and watch stuff? I know you do.
Periodically.
I know, because sometimes when I ask you a question, you lie about it. Is that true?
No. He's lying again.
When I was on there, you had told me about this pickup maker guy that you had been in touch with, because we were going to go back and do some pickups, which we are.
Right.
And in this discussion, the guy wrote you a long letter back. I don't think we should say his name, because then we could get sued or something. But anyway, long discussion written out about how he's the only guy that makes pickups like great. He goes to all the trouble of making all the wire the same. The thing that maybe he doesn't know is that that's what they all say, because that's what they all do. When I say they all, I mean the people that make clones.
Yep.
Don't they all say that?
They all say that. Every one of them.
Yeah. Otherwise, why would you be making them and saying that they're total clones if you're not doing that?
And they are PAF.
PAF, or you know what they call that in Europe?
What?
PAF.
PAF?
PAF.
The PAF tones?
PAF.
That sounds like something you'd say down in Texas.
I know.
You get
I
some
know, but they
PAFs.
don't say it like that. There, I was reminded of another guy who's a really well-known YouTuber, and I like his stuff. His name is Rhett Schultz, and he did one on PAF pickups, and he had one of his guitars with no PAF pickups in it. He had Whiz pickups in it. Well, we've done demos on Whiz pickups, but am I crazy here? If you're going to talk about PAF pickups and you don't have any PAF pickups, or you're going to do a comparison with them to a newer pickup like what we do, and you don't have any, how does that work? I think I'm just going nuts on this whole on this whole entire thing.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So it got me to thinking again on where we started with this show, because this is pretty much all we've done for a whole life. We've known each other for a long time. Is I came up with 3 questions that we could do a show about. Here are the 3 questions. Question number 1. The 58 to 60 Sunburst finish Les Paul. Why is that guitar the chosen guitar? And why was it the chosen guitar way, way back in the day where you could buy them for $1,000 or less? And why are they popular now? So we have a special guest today who is going to bring some information that's very, very rare. He's an older gentleman, and he bought an original Burst back in the very, very early 70s, back when they were just coming on. And we're going to interview this guy and ask him what was going on in his life and why he would buy him. And our special guest, very, very unusual to have somebody who's lived this long. But anyway, we have this opportunity, and that person is sitting right here. Don't die on us. Come on. If you, give me a signal. Give me a signal. We've got the charges over there.
I don't plan on dying anytime soon.
Hang in there, and we'll visit the guitar that he bought that he still has that you've seen on the show. To me, that's where the rubber meets the road.
That one over yonder?
Yeah. There it is. Heavy?
Damn, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can hold that.
Yeah. This is the guitar that Pat bought in 71, 72.
Late
right
71, I believe.
We'll talk about what was going on in 71 and 72 from people who were there. We'll take a look at some pictures of how many of these guitars we actually had at one time, and we were playing them in clubs, and so were our friends who had them. And then I did a little interview with Joff at 5 Star Guitar about why the continued popularity of the reissues of this guitar that are not cheap either, right?
Right.
Who's buying them, and why are they popular? And to talk to him about that. 2, we constantly hear about the PAF tone. What is the PAF tone? Is there one sound? We're going to play this guitar and a variety of other guitars with PAFs and talk about that. Again.
Don't die on me.
You need to give me a sign or something like that.
Okay, I'll give you a sign.
Oh, yeah, not that sign.
Give you a sign.
And we'll talk about the difference between the sounds old times, talk about Bonamassa using those guitars, et cetera, and we're going to compare the sound of some more PAF clone pickups that we've received, that we will compare them to the original deals that we actually have. Not just one, but 3 or 4. And the third thing I want to talk about, which is P90s versus humbucking pickups. So we'll say PAFs because that's what they were doing.
Right.
I maintain that the guitars that they were making back in the day when they made that switch, that they were trying to please these guys, which are the jazzers. These were the guys that Gibson was going after. The difference between the tone of P90s and humbuckers for jazz players is not that much besides the hum. We'll talk about that. You know, the most probably iconic jazz guitar tone that people still talk about is based on this guitar right here that Charlie Christian played. That tone is the one that people are still after. And this one has a pre-P90 bar single coil pickup in it. So anyway, we'll talk about that. It's going to be a pretty exciting show.
All right, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Can't you tell?
Excellent. Okay, guys. Well, I'm Doug.
And I'm Pat.
This is the Doug and Pat Show. Yeah, so I want to touch on this thing that you started, actually, with this pickup guy about a couple things. And here's the reason why. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Is that this miscellaneous conjecture, right? Conjecture about events that happened or opinions about things. I divide them into 2 categories, and you can pick which one that you like the best. One's called subjective, which means that it's up to you to make up your mind if you like it or not. That's like the colors, right? Whatever your favorite color is, there's no wrong answer.
Right.
Whatever the sound it is that you like of guitar pickups or guitar amplifiers, there's no wrong answer. Everyone gets to choose that. And let's try to remember that, people. That is subjective. If you're not into PAF pickups, you could probably go to another channel right now, like the knitting channel or the sheetrock channel.
Been there.
Yeah. Exciting.
It is.
If you want to know how to make that seam just
To
right.
frog and to pearl and
Frog
to
and pearl.
do all that
If
kind
you
of
drop
stuff.
a stitch.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the popularity of these guitars right here. And it's kind of curious to me why these guitars continue to be so revered, why they are so looked at as being the Holy Grail, considering the fact that most people are not ever going to have the experience that we're having right this minute of sitting here holding one. This is our early 1960. It has all the stuff of a 59. The knobs are 59. The neck's a 59. They didn't have years where they, like cars where they switched. Well,
Here's the model.
January 1st, 1960. Let's change her. Yeah, so this looks like a 59.
You do.
Sounds quite great as well here. Our special guest today is Pat O'Donnell, also known as Patrick O'Donnell. Patrick O'Donnell is a well-known wheeler dealer around town and across the country. He's worked with some really, really well-known people that got very, very sorry about that later on in their life. But that's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
Speaking of water under the bridge, let's go water under the bridge. What was the year that you bought this guitar, and how did that happen?
Early 72, maybe late 71, right in through there. I bought it for me as a Christmas present to myself.
Were you looking for one of those?
I was, and mainly because, at the time back then, Well, I was playing. I had a Firebird 3, and and playing clubs and things, and it just didn't get it. I was playing the amplifier that I had was a 410 Fender Concert.
Whoa!
And
that must have cracked porcelain somewhere.
Yes, and so even cranked it, it wasn't getting it. Music at the time was changing. We were playing more, well, for lack of better terms, a ZZ Top type of thing.
You were?
More guitar oriented. Yeah, their album I think came out in 69 or 70 or something. And so, and to get that tone and write on the cover of that album, which we got around here somewhere.
Here's one.
Billy has one of them there Sunburst Les Pauls.
So
so
was this album influential to you more than other things, or did it get your interest in finding a Les Paul with humbuckings? Is that what we called them back then? Les Pauls with humbuckings.
Yes, and that was what got me first of all. I thought the album cover was cool and the guitar was cool.
Very cool.
But when you put on the album itself, and especially, we've talked before, Brown Sugar, and you hear that tone, and you can't get that with a Firebird. And you can't get it with a concert amp.
No,
so
you can't.
What do you need? And back then, too, people were going to Marshalls and things. And
so 1970, yeah, heck yeah. People were getting into Marshalls and all that.
Yep.
So you had one of these.
Yes, that's the rig.
He had one of them. In case you haven't played one of those, check out our Firebird show.
They have a unique sound of their own, and they sound good for a lot of things. Johnny Winter made them sound good and all that, but overall versatility, this thing got it.
Oh yeah,
as opposed to that, and as opposed to a Stratocaster. So
subjective.
Yes.
Whatever it is that gets you going. I would have one of those, and I would have a Stratocaster, but that's just me.
Well, we did.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. So, would you say that when you were starting to look for Les Pauls, you had bought Les Pauls before that? Yes. What was the first vintage guitar, like a Les Paul, that you bought?
Well, the first was a Les Paul Jr.
And when was that?
55 Jr. I think I got it in. I didn't get it in 55.
No. You would have been just retiring right around that time from your job at the post office.
I think I got that guitar in 66 or 7.
Yeah. What made you buy that?
It kind of just fell into my lap. I had a Tiesco or some crazy thing before that. And so
which are now only worth $1,500.
I know. Yep. But, the Les Paul just... it just kind of, like I say, fell into my lap. It was I heard about it, neighbor had it, wanted to sell it, saw me playing guitar on a porch, and I ended up getting the guitar.
So did you know what it was? Meaning, did you know who Les Paul was, and
not really.
fact that the guitar was discontinued?
No.
Or was it just a first time you had seen a guitar like that?
First time I'd seen one like that, and it was thick body, where all the other guitars were thinner body, and it sounded really good. I don't even remember what kind of amplifier I had at the time. Probably a little, it could have been a Super O or a Dan Electro or something.
Yeah, so you figure that in 66, that was like pop music was still more popular, such as Beatles and all that. And the guitars they were playing were Rickenbacker guitars and pretty much clean stuff. Yeah. The Blues Breakers album was recorded that year. But let's say Revolver was the Beatle album. I think that was the last one of that year, Rubber Soul Revolver. But those blues guys were just starting to get well known.
Right.
And so because you were there in 66, 67, were you aware of those guys, or who were you aware of that were playing Les Paul guitars in those days?
I was aware of Bloomfield mainly because when I was in the Army in 67, a friend of mine was really a Bloomfield fan, and he had he didn't have a Sunburst, he had a sideways vibrato SG, and with humbucking pickups. And he used to talk about you really need one of those fat body Les Pauls, with the humbucking pickups. And so,
so somebody was telling you that.
Oh yeah,
67.
Yeah. And and he had the Super Session album, and there were, the guitar sounded real good. It sounded a lot different than George Harrison's Gretsch Tennessean, in different Beatles songs. So.
Yeah, it was an exciting sound.
Oh, yeah.
Bloomfield was also playing a Gold Top before that,
Right.
traded the Gold Top for that Sunburst. And before that, he was playing a Telly that ended up turning into a double cutaway thing. But yeah, so you were aware of those guys.
Yep.
Now, it must have been clear, because I was younger than you by a little bit. I wasn't really dialed into that stuff quite yet. Cream hadn't been out yet. I think Cream came out in 67, 68.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of music with that sound was not mainstream, I guess you'd say. But it had to be mainstream enough for Gibson to want to reissue the Gold Top and the Les Paul Custom 2 pickup model in 1968. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't just go, let's reissue them, let's turn them out in a week. They had been thinking about it.
Right.
But Les Pauls in general, the question would be, don't think it was really quite defined as to what exactly different models did or what they were. We were just looking at players who were playing them. And with you, was it that you started hearing from your friend and seeing these guitars starting to show up someplace?
Yep.
Were you aware that Keith Richards playing one?
I saw him on, it was Ed Sullivan or Shindig or one of those shows.
Tammy Show?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you say at the time, wonder what that guitar is that he's playing? What is that?
Not really, because I didn't care for the Bigsby that was on it.
Yeah.
So it just, and he didn't get that sound out of it. He sounded just like he did when he played his whatever it was. He had a Blues Bird or something,
or a harmony guitar, or a Guild guitar, or or stuff like that. I agree. I don't think that, to me, as far as a lead instrument, that really began to change until the Blues Breakers Beano album. But that didn't mean that album was well known or mainstream.
Right.
So then, somewhere along the line between 67 and let's say late 71, 72, because the ZZ Top's album was out.
Right.
With the picture of the guitar on the cover, and it sounded amazing. The Allman Brothers, who their live album was done in 72, they were playing Sunburst Les Pauls, Jimmy Page, Kalsoff. We started to see those, but I guess the thing would be they were becoming sought after. Like Les Pauls in general, if I recall, were getting sought after. But we didn't have all that definitive knowledge like we had. So you were in Pendleton or someplace when you...
Right.
And what was going on that day?
There was a good old boy up there that wanted to buy himself a TV set.
Well, heck
console
yeah.
and all that, and it was $300, and so selling his guitar. And so that's when I bought this. I was thinking...
That was at a music store that
Yes.
sold hi-fi equipment and TV sets.
Exactly.
Did he trade in this guitar for a TV set?
Yes.
That's what I would have done.
And, but I was also thinking about... I remember seeing Joe Walsh in the James Gang, and he was playing a Sunburst Les Paul. That was down at the Salem Armory.
You saw him?
Remember that? Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were loud, but all those the guitar players that I really at that time admired were starting to play these guys. Not only Clapton and all that, but Led Zeppelin, Tommy Bolin. I saw him he was playing with John Mayall. He was in Zephyr, and he was playing one of these guys. So yeah.
So you were influenced by the players at the time, as I was.
Yes.
Of seeing them, and then did you get into a defining thing of what the sound is that we liked? It sounds like you did, and I met you right around that time.
Right.
And we used to talk about that like we're talking about it now. And we talked about ZZ Top endlessly. Is that I was playing early 60s 355, and I had a Stratocaster, and I think
Les
I had
Paul
a,
special too. At the time.
I had a Les Paul Gold Top, the 68. I could not achieve the sound that I was hearing on the ZZ Top record until when we started playing together. I got a Les Paul Jr. double cut and a 50 watt early 72 Marshall, and immediately there was a huge change in the way that it sounded. And then the deal was later on. Your friend John, our friend John,
Oh yeah.
moved into town. He had one. Here's a picture of 5 bursts sitting on a couch in Pat's basement. At one time, Pat owned 3 of them. I owned one, and our friend John owned the other one. And this is a picture of Pat and I playing in a bar in our band, Heavy Metal Thunder Band. And we're both playing 59 Les Pauls. I'm playing our friend John's Les Paul. You're playing Jane. And then I got a 59 shortly after that. Those guitars were sought after at that time. That was the instrument to go for. And it was the instrument to go for me, because of the way that they sounded. But the bonus was the way they looked, especially the ones with curly tops.
Sure.
Right? So the ones with curly tops, like now, are the sought after ones more so than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the interesting thing, is that you were a guy who was there, and you were also starting to be involved with selling and buying guitars and trading guitars with the other people around the country. That was much, much harder to do back then.
Yeah.
Much harder. How did you send information about guitars?
You know, you had to give. I'd give Norman a call down in Reseda, California. I'd call George Gruen, call Guitar Trader back in the East Coast, and find out what they had and what things were worth. They would advertise in Guitar Player magazine or something, but if you wanted to really find out what the guitars were and what they were about, you had to give them a call. So it wasn't like the internet and you could get a picture of it right away or anything like that. So
yeah,
way
the
back.
prices. When we talk about the prices nowadays of these guitars, so back then, let's say between 72 and 76, especially when we had those 5 instruments there sitting there, is I bought mine in which was not a very flamey top at all. It was structurally fine, and it was pretty belt buckled on the back, and I bought that guitar in 75 or 76 for $2,000, which was a chunk of dough, because you could buy a new Les Paul for $500.
Right.
Yeah. So you bought this way, way, way less than that, because at that time, that it hadn't exploded quite yet.
Right.
So that's kind of that progression that we look at as to when that started taking off. Then I think Van Halen probably pretty much gutted out the vintage business for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, he made it where you could buy an affordable guitar, a couple $100 for a Kramer, whatever, and put a bunch of pickups in it, or not.
Right.
Take the pickups out and
Right.
put something else in it. But he was quite an influence on all of that stuff too. And he ended up getting a Sunburst Les Paul or 2, and
Oh yeah.
absolutely loving it. And that's the funny thing to me too, is a lot of guys didn't have one, heard the myth about them all for years and years and years, and then finally later on they get one, and the first thing they say is, wow, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Knopfler did the same thing, and I think Bukovac even said something to that effect at one time.
He did.
So there's just something about him, it's that magic dust or something.
Bukovac, because he has a 59 that he got from George Gruen, I think, and he's talking about these 335s, and then he goes, but here's the deal. Here's the elements about the guitar. He's talking about the guitar from a player's angle, not from a collector's angle. As a player, he goes, And he takes the 335s and he goes, see, it doesn't have much sustain to it, doesn't have much clarity to it, but it has a lot of personality to it. But this is why the Les Paul, in my case, he takes this, he goes, this guitar, solid body, with these pickups in it, is the perfect storm. So the custom that they were making, the other archtop guitar in the 50s had a mahogany top. So the one guitar that they made with the maple top was this one. And when he plays on it, you can hear the clarity of the notes. That's the thing when we had Bonamassa on the second time. And the first question we asked him was, you tour with P.ete A Les Pauls. Why? What do you like about them? And he said, lower output. And then we said, anything else? Because that really isn't overly descriptive. And then he said, clarity. And it maintains clarity whether you're playing a lower volume, like here's a picture of George Benson playing at a jazz festival with the organ player guy, and he's playing a burst of some type. Looks like it might be a 60 because it has dome knobs on it, through a 410 tweed basement, a couple highly desirable things. And this is in 1965, and this was not an influence on anybody at all, in the slightest. But the clarity is obvious, and they maintain that. I'm going to go to an interview that I did just briefly with Joff because I wanted to ask him the same thing, which is now the custom shop. Remember those custom shops, those 5 that we had here?
Yeah.
They're like $8,000 now or something
8
like
to
that,
10,
or more.
Or if you get one that's Murphy aged, it can be 12, 15.
Yeah. My question to him is why? After all of these years, why is this guitar, the originals, sky high? And why are the reissues of interest to generations that are many generations past when you bought this guitar?
Yep.
And let's see what he has to say. I'm here with Joff. First question for you is, obviously you sell Les Pauls. You're a big dealer of Les Pauls. So the questions are going to be about Les Pauls in general. Here's the first one. Do you sell many Les Pauls?
We sell quite a few Les Pauls, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you, the thing that we're kind of comparing it to is looking for what is the reason why people nowadays, 50 years after the fact for Pat and I buying Les Pauls, that people are buying them? If someone's coming in, you offer the full line from Epiphone to the custom shop?
Yep, all the way through, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think probably for the same reasons that you and Doug got into them, same reasons that I started to like them in the 80s, and, it's the people that were playing them that inspired you to pick up the guitar in the first place, right? And I think that, it's also a great design.
What you're saying, after all these years, the popularity of the instrument has not declined.
No.
And there are a number of different signature models that you can buy that are already modded for the artists that people are into now.
A lot, yeah.
So the artists that you're talking about, what we're kind of looking for is who would they be? We're going to compare them to who they were when Pat and I were coming up, and we could name those that are the classic page, right? Pretty much all the British rock guys, Jeff Beck, Peter Green, Clapton, then the American guys, the Allman Brothers, ZZ Top, all that.
Yeah.
Who are the artists that the people that come in and buy Les Pauls, if they mention the artists that they're interested in, who are they?
Well, still all those people. I mean, kids are still discovering Led Zeppelin and, the Rolling Stones and, just, all that stuff. And all those areas, too, or all those eras. So, there's plenty of people that really dig Aerosmith that still want a Les Paul or whatever. But there's a lot of newer artists. For example, we've got one of these. There's a 7-string version of a Les Paul. That's for a fellow named Matt Heafy from a band called Trivium. And what's kind of interesting about that is it's 7 strings. It's got active pickups, but it's still on the same basic platform. Yeah.
And that's so the guy, the artist. He plays a Gibson one or an Epiphone one, or he plays an Epiphone one.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's got a Gibson one too. But that's what we've seen come out, and I mean, it's a great guitar. And part of it's going to be the popularity of the band.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering is the band, so the visibility of the instrument continues on. Okay, so we also see we have a single cut Les Paul Jr. Sunburst. We have a very cool Les Paul Special platform. We have those.
Yeah, those are great, and I think all the 61 like SG style Les Pauls were sold out of it this time. But
let's talk about the custom shop. When you get into the standard with a maple cap, let's say if you're talking a vintage one, even if you're talking about one with humbuckings, the price goes significantly up. But when you talk about the Sunburst Finish 58, 59, 60 Les Pauls, are those guitars still, that is, people would identify those guitars as what they are after? Those guitars are still selling and are popular?
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much talk about those 3 years, and I think even more so about 59, right? Like that's the magic.
That's it. That's the magic year.
I mean, I think that the reissues of these models that are really faithful reproductions are still really popular.
So let's take the custom shop with the Bixby on it. So what's the list price on that guitar?
I want to say it's $68.99.
Okay, so under $7,000.
Yeah.
So okay. So
it comes with a case.
Yeah, and because when we did a show with custom shop guitars, you had a lot more of them. So you sold a bunch of those guitars.
Well, we also didn't get them all at once.
Yeah.
So I mean, they would send us one or two at a time.
The pickups that are on those guitars from the custom shop. Somebody said that they're available now to buy separately.
Yeah, they just introduced that. So they're called the custom buckers, and they were only available with custom shop guitars if you requested them. And I mean, that's how we do most of the stuff that we have them make for us, because the pickups are great.
Anything else we need to talk about? I have what I wanted.
I don't know. 5starguitars.com.
I know, it's too bad that we have to start with this one. Is this like the most gorgeous top? It's so evenly flamed all the way through. When you first saw this guitar, when the case got open, when you were in Pendleton, what did you see? What did you think when you saw this?
I thought, that's a pretty darn nice looking rig right there.
That's a good looking rig.
That's right.
For a slab back Gibson.
That's right. It's one of them there slab
It's
backs.
a slab back.
Mm-hmm. And it's got them there P.ete on it.
We didn't know that at the time because we didn't really care.
Well, because I was going to put some DiMarzios on it, but then I got a set of Mighty Mites and put them on it instead.
Oh, yeah. You could have got the tricoils.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had to route the guitar out.
I know somebody that has tricoils on.
I know somebody who has one too. We'll talk about that later at the Doug and Pat show, auction of old gear.
Yeah, and I was going to put a Kaler on it, and whatever.
Always an improvement.
Yep.
Yeah, when you open the case, you probably went, well, that's one of them there.
It's one of them there. Yep. It's a Gibson. It's
a Gibson. Mm-hmm. So this guitar, let's see. I'll just kind of play some notes around, and let's see if we think that this sounds a little bit more like the Clapton burst or the Quacky burst. We're going to be running this through, instead of running it through our Vox AC10 SRT 1965, this is a rare amp. And it's a great sounding amp, but it's also rare. So so that means you can't go out and get one really all that easy, unless you're selling a year or two or whatever you're going to do. So today we're running it through the Henry SRT Plus, which is an amplifier you can buy now. It's basically going after a clone of this amp, and it really sounds good. And we're running it through a 112 Celestion Silver, about a 66. Those are a little bit hard to find, but not the end of the world. So yeah, Henry's doing a great job on those. Let's see what this sounds like. You know what pick I'm using right now?
Oh, one of them there. No, that's another thing. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah, that's right. We got all kinds of things going on. We can't even control ourselves. Treble pickup. 10. Why would we not? Great top end. I think all of the PAF guitars that we've ever played, some more than others, have a clarity to the top end to them, even when you're playing overdriven, that is very active and alive, so the player can create things with it. They just all seem to have that to a large degree. Just from what we're hearing right now, to me, this guitar sounds a little more like the Clapton guitar than it does the Billy Gibbons guitar, but it definitely has that articulation to it. Yep. Let's compare it to Jane. This is Jane. I can't remember. Good thing
Blonde.
I remember my wife's
Yeah,
name.
she's
Huh?
blonde and curly. And
got-
a nice body.
I know.
Nice
Nice
shape
curves.
to it. Yeah,
a
that's
lot of
right.
curls, blonde. We're going to compare this with Oscar, which is a 58 Les Paul gold top, made just before they changed to the sunburst finish. The 58, we think this guitar sounds different than Jane. Let's find out. Treble pickup. Got a nice snap to it when you play those notes. As you hit them hard, this pick is so thick, you can do that. When you hit it hard and then you back off, it changes, you know. That is so greasy. Isn't that right in there? Very, very pearly gates. We'll mention that we have a demo, if we haven't mentioned this before, that we are going to play all these guitars again so that we can hear them in a track, because we're just playing them by themselves, obviously. And we're going to play a number of guitars. We don't have a name for the track yet.
Oh,
I was thinking about, we ought to call it Make Doug and Pat Rich.
okay.
And then we'll figure out how y'all can do that for us.
I'm for
'Cause,
that.
yeah, we need a little help over here. Yeah.
A little.
Some of these guitars are getting a little long in the tooth.
They are.
Yeah, as good thing we're not because.
What?
Yeah. Maybe that's what we ought to call the song. Okay, let's try another one. 1963-55. So obviously a radically different body. It's hollow.
It's got them there.
It's got PAFs in it.
Gibson PAFs, or they made by somebody else?
Oh, they need to be the Gibson.
Okay, the Gibson.
And it certainly ain't a slab back.
No.
I like the red guitar.
Yeah, I like red shoes.
Uh-huh.
Are they red or pink?
They're
this side.
they're red. Bring it up a little bit. So there, instead of being on 9 like on the Les Pauls, I was actually on about 7. So this guitar seems to be a little louder. Turn it up to about 9. All the way.
Mm-hmm.
Has similar characteristics from what we're hearing. It's got the top end to it. It's got the personality to it. I can't really quite tell if it's moving towards Clapton or more towards Billy. Can't tell yet here on the recording. Because the cabinet's in the other room. We're not going to go deaf any more than what we are. What? That's why we're Doug and Pat. Or Pat and Doug, I can't remember. Can live with that.
Yep.
Okay, we will be playing this.
Some of that's a little reminiscent of when Clapton was playing 335.
Yeah, 64, 335.
So,
yeah, it's funny, and you mentioned this earlier in conversation that we were having off camera, about people kind of sounding the same, like no matter what guitar that they pick up. But also, what was it you were talking about all the different pickup makers?
Well, my point was, if you got like say 5 or 10 people in a room and they're playing the same guitar, of course at different times, but well, it'd be kind of hard, There's not Well, anyway, you know what I mean. He
Yeah.
doesn't know what I mean.
I don't know what he's talking about again.
They'll all sound different. In other words, pick up Jane or Oscar or what do you call
Biff.
this one? or whatever. Now I forgot what I was going to say. No, they all sound they sound different. They'll sound different. Okay, it's almost, and it's like the pickup guys that are making these pickups. You get 10 guys and they're using the same exact parts in their pickups. The 42 wire and the maple this and that and all this, and
They represent that. We don't know the source, but yeah, they are.
and they all sound different for some reason. And I think I keep thinking about our buddy Bob Tyson talking about
Sprinkling the
sprinkle a little magic dust.
he had it
on
marked right on the box right there.
That's right,
Yeah.
and that's why his pickups sound a bit different than the other guys.
Yeah, it's the amount of magic dust, I guess, or where you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that true? Because we've had an awful lot of PAF clones come through, and they do all represent that they're using the same thing.
Yep.
We had one guy who said that he's using vintage, that is NOS 1959 wire, and his pickup sounded really, really great. So, I mean, what can you say? And you're totally right about players. It's like you're going to sound like yourself, and I think a good player is going to find the thing in the guitar he's playing or she's playing that is what they're looking for, and doesn't play the parts of the guitar that aren't what they're looking for. It's kind of like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And the better the guitar is, the more expressive that the instrument is. It's just waiting for you as the player to get better, to find those elements about it. What we're doing today is we're taking a look and see if those elements are in the guitar to the best that I can find them. And are they different? Because we're all about what is PAF tone while we're playing PAF guitars.
Right.
Clever, huh?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
So in line with our PAF testing, we get pickups from people that are going after the PAF tone because we have PAF guitars and we play them. And the latest one that we have, which actually we got him from last year, is Benjamin Murray. He makes pickups and he's in Australia. Pretty cool. He calls us mate a lot, which I guess is common in Australia. Because he's from Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down under.
Huh?
Down under. You go to that.
Oh.
Go to Outback.
Oh, you mean down under the world?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Down south. A bit south of here.
This is a 06 R7. It's a Gibson. Slab back, black slab back. You see the controls are open because we soldered in Benjamin Murray's pickups into this R7 to hear what they sound like.
They look good too.
Yeah, we're also going to use this on the demo of our demo. What? Or make Doug and Pat rich, whatever you like. Treble pickup, because we're rockers.
Jazz.
That's crying music. You can cry. My baby, she done left me. But now she's back. We digress. I think it's also important that PAF guitars really have an exaggerated vibrato, as do P90s. It's like, so when you vibrato it, it changes, does the diphthong, ow. We're looking for that too. has personality to
Yeah.
it. They sound pretty good from where we're sitting.
They do.
They definitely sound P.ete. They got a little bit more of the quacky sound from where I'm sitting than they do the Clapton sound, although it's got good top end to it. We'll listen to the recording, of course, but you know, when you go up to these notes, do they take on a characteristic of like they're going to explode, you know? Kind of. So we'll listen to it on the demo. And thank you, Benjamin, for sending us these pickups. They sound pretty good.
They do, and like I say, they look good too. I like the patina
Yeah.
on the covers.
Yeah, the pickups that came in this, I think, were classic 57s, maybe.
I think so.
This guitar actually sounded pretty good, and it's going to be one of the demos that you're going to hear, which is going to be a stock R7. And then we changed the pickups out. And we have some other pickups we're going to pop in there. So thanks, Benjamin. Very good job. Thanks for your patience, too, as it was only like, what, a year ago in April or May or something.
Australia's a long ways
It's a long
away.
ways. Yeah. We were going to walk down there and get them, but... Next up, we have the P.ete A. Flynn pickups. P.ete A. Flynn. P.A.F. Oh, Peter, you are a funny guy. Check those out. Yeah, so he sent us 2 sets of these pickups. So how'd you meet up with this guy, or how did you find out about him?
Just saw him different reviews online of his pickups, and people ranting and raving how good they were.
Yeah.
So you hear that kind of stuff, you got to try them out.
That'd be nice if we could. Now, obviously, because the pickups are called P.A.F.
That's right.
Yeah, and he says, so he has a little blurb on the back of there, I think, on one of them. So this is the set that is the lower wind set. So were you saying on there that this is a 7.0?
7.0.
With an A2.
Yes.
What does he put on this one?
And that's a 7.9 with an A magnet.
A5? Not A magnet, but A5.
No, it's got a magnet.
Yeah, so it's magnetic. Well, geez, I could get the
A2 and an A5
I
here.
could get the canster.
And those are zebras, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we've played any guitars that actually have that low of a wind with that pickup.
Not that
So
low.
we haven't tried the neck pickup on most of these guitars because we just don't care. But this one's, I think we might. This is the neck pickup. Has a lot of top end to it. You turn these guitars all the way up, they get brighter. I mean, when they're all the way up, that's as bright as they go. Yep. When you turn them down, they get less bright. Yeah, you can really hear that. That's on the neck pickup. It has a lot of brightness to it, doesn't it?
He uses all the right stuff, the maple spacers and braided wire.
Yeah. I think he also says something about scatter wind on there,
They're
doesn't he?
non-potted.
Yeah. Mismatched DC resistance, so that would be between the two coils. So it certainly has been a lot of discussion about that, about when the coils are not completely balanced. So the humbucking aspect of it, I think, is achieved the most when the coils are balanced. So the pickup's actually quieter. If they're not balanced, I think that there's less of the humbucking thing, might be a little noisier, but you can start to hear a little bit more of one coil than another. I think Bukovac describes that as being kind of quacky. And to me, that's kind of where some of the personality is that sound. And he does it on purpose, which is another approach to it. Let's put it on the bridge pickup and rock it. Low whine, 7.9 with the A5. That's not exactly real low, but... It has nice bloom. It's got that kind of that clicky sort of a thing that goes on top, which I if you're going to go up there, you really want it to sound a little bit different than down here. Set number 2 from the Flynn pickup. So what's the reading on these guys?
I don't know. You read it. I haven't got my glasses.
Okay, 9.6.
With an A magnet.
Yeah, with the A5. Okay. This one actually, so on this little blurb out that he has, on the second one, on the neck pickup, he doesn't have the number of what it is, just has a magnet. So that's good. As Pat said earlier, that's a magnet in it. I guess that's how it works. It has some kind of wire and radiation or something. 9.6 and 8.0 are the two. So,
and all the correct things as far as the wiring and the screws and the maple spacers and the braided wire.
Is this kind of the average thing that we get?
Scatter wound. It is.
It is.
That's what all these pickup makers claim.
It's what they should be.
Yeah.
That's what they should be doing. The only pickup maker that we ran into that sort of ignored that was Sebastian with the VIP.
Oh.
And so VIP means vintage inspired pickups, but his pickups weren't duplicates of P.ete A's. They sounded really good though. I think Sebastian's still in business. Has some good pots. This is his neck pickup. They seem to be pretty clear. The guitar's on about 6.5. Okay.
And what amplifier are you using?
Well, we're using the Henry SRT Plus that we mentioned earlier on, which is a good thing that you mentioned that again because people they forget and then they ask about it. Here's a picture of it. And of course, the story of this is that Henry was going after this amplifier here, like not one of these, but this one. and we've used quite a bit over the years. And I think he did a really good job. Single input. It uses the same tubes. It has way better reverb. It has a lot more flexibility to it. This is a great amplifier. It's full of personality, but the Henry is really nice too. And you can buy one.
Oh.
Yeah. Good luck finding one of those. Bridge pickup 9.0. Yikes! Getting some screaming stuff out of this guy. Yeah. I can hardly wait to hear this one on the demo too. It's odd to me that a pickup that has this much gain to it, that is a 9.0, would still retain a lot of those overtones, a lot of the classic super distortion sort of pickups that I know they can be overwhelmed more than this, but they don't usually sound that. I dropped it down just a little bit into the body, which I think makes some difference too on both of them. The screws are down a little bit on the edges, but yeah, I think it sounds pretty good.
All right.
Well, that's the end of part 1, and we are looking forward to part 2. Still crazy after all these years. Part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah, we have never done that, I don't think. Well, yeah, we did on the road trip, I think.
Part 1 and 2?
Yeah.
And I think it's like the ones that we did with blindfold test.
Yeah.
We did one show and then came back
right
a little bit later.
Boy, those were great shows.
Yeah,
we should have
they were
put some
fun.
advertising on there. So, time to get on to the second show. We want you guys to go there right now. So don't wait. Get there right now. See ya.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. Just speak of...
Yeah, well, I don't agree with that at all.
Hey, go to the next show. What are they doing?
I don't know. What is this?
Can you guys go to the next show right now? Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. Well, I just...
Okay, well, that's...
Hey, we said go to the next show. What's wrong with you guys?
No.
Jeez.